Hello everyone, this is IROC I'm going to do a series here during the winter, the baseball offseason, kind of as everything comes to an end and out of the park. I'm going to show you how to build a model. That way everyone can kind of have this information to start in Out of the Park 25. Hopefully it will all be there. Everything's going to be the same no matter what format you do. I'm going to do Iron, coming back to the game after a couple months off. Need to rebuild my Iron model, so I need to get some data for that. But whether you do an Iron, Bronze, Gold, Live, Dead Ball, anything like that, League, it's all going to be the same. You just want to make sure that you're pulling all your data from the same format, so you don't combine Iron and Bronze, you don't combine Bronze and Gold, that kind of thing. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is getting the stats out of the park and into either an Excel file, a CSV file, a database, whatever you want to get it into. So what you want to do is you're going to come over here to tournament menu, and you're going to click statistics. That's going to pull up this statistics home screen, and then go to sortable stats. And we are going to talk about the recommended fields that you want to use when you are exporting your stats. At the beginning of the cycle, I got this list from Your Kidneys. These are the stats he's going to use. He was wanting from people who were trying to get him stats early on in the cycle for a league model, and it had everything I needed. It was as close as I could find to a community standard, so that is what I stuck with. So if you come here to you can go to any view here, batting stats, whatever. I'm going to go to my batting export view and hit customize. And this is going to show you what you can add and what you can take away. So we're going to have the name, the organization, and the PT card ID. These are going to be the first three that I have in every table. And then we've got batting stats here that we want to export, and you're going to export games started, plate appearances, at bats, hits, singles, doubles, triples, home runs, RBI, runs, walks, intentional walks, hit by pitches, sacrifice hits, sacrifice flies, catcher's interference, strikeouts, grounded into double plays, total bases, pitches per plate appearance, stolen bases, caught stealing, and UBR. You'll notice that we're not exporting a lot of the rate stats like walk percentage, strikeout percentage, batting average, on base percentage, WOBA, all those kind of things. You don't want to export those because those are not the same across different at-bat numbers or different innings pitched or innings played numbers. So a 300 batting average across 10 plate appearances is not the same as a 300 batting average across 30 plate appearances. And all of these numbers in here that we need, we can calculate all of these ourselves. The only rate statistics we export are UBR and pitches per plate appearance, because there is no other way to export those right now. Next, we're going to look at pitching. So again, we have the PT card ID, name, and organization. Name and organization are here in the General tab. Make sure you go over to the miscellaneous info to get the PT card ID. And then we come to the pitching stats, and we have games started, wins, losses, save opportunities, saves, blown saves, holds, shutdowns, meltdowns, innings pitched, batters faced, at-bats, hits allowed, singles, doubles, triples, home runs, total bases, runs, earned runs, walks, intentional walks, strikeouts, hit by pitch, sacrifice hits, sacrifice flies, wild pitches, balks, double plays, relief appearances, inherited runners stranded, quality starts, ground balls, fly balls, stolen bases, and caught stealing. Some of these that we are exporting, like hits allowed, obviously is just a sum of singles, doubles, home runs, and triples. I could say that in order, that would help. Singles, doubles, triples, and home runs. But when you go to do the math, it's easier to have that already summed up for you. And for fielding export, we're not having a different exports by position. We are exporting everything we need for every position from the same export, and we are putting the position here. That is going to go right here after organization. So that is the way that I sort out what player is playing what position, especially for guys like Friel who can really play like 3, 4, 5 different positions in any tournament. So we've got position, games started, total chances, assists, putouts, errors, double plays, triple plays, zone rating, stolen base attempts, that is stolen base attempts and runners thrown out. Sorry, I always get mixed up if this is stolen base attempted or stolen or runners thrown out. Innings played, passed balls, catcher earned runs, BIZR, BIZRM, BIZL, BIZLM, BIZE, BIZEM, BIZU, BIZUM, BIZZ, BIZZM, BIZI, and then frame and arm runs. For this one, framing, arm, and zone rating are REIT statistics, but we are still exporting them because it's somewhat difficult to get the counting stat, especially if you are new. It can be easier to model zone rating, which will get you 80% of the way there, than try to calculate outs above average, which is a little bit more involved. Frame runs, we don't really have a better way than to use the frame runs that's shown here. Arm runs, it's similar to zone runs. There is a way to do outs above average with an arm, but it's easier to just export the arm number, especially when you're newer. So the other thing that I have is a filter for all of my, for batting, pitching, and fielding to get rid of the players who didn't do that. That saves, in the export, that saves a ton of lines. If you export every player that didn't take a plate appearance or didn't pitch an inning, you're going to get, in a best of 16, in a 16-team tournament, you're going to get like 400 or 500 lines exported for batters and pitchers each. So this is plate appearances is at least 1. So it filters out everyone who as long as anyone appears at the plate, whether they strike out, walk, hit a home run, whatever they do, they will show up. For pitchers, it is at least 1 batter faced, and the reason I do batters faced is if you walk someone, that does not count as an inning pitched, but it still counts as a batters faced. Batters faced is the equivalent of plate appearances for pitchers. And then for fielding, it is by innings at least 0.1. There is no way to measure batters faced or anything like that for fielders, so just 0.1 innings. That just means that they were in the field for at least 1 out at that position. And again, this just gets rid of a ton of extra information, or a ton of extra rows you don't need. So what you can do is you go to customize here, and then you hit cancel, right? Let's customize and let's drop organization, right? So now you'll see there's this star here, the asterisk here. That means that the view has been changed or the filter has been changed. What you can do is you can go to save view, export. I'm going to name it test, and you can either save as global or save as local. I like to save things as global for exports. So you can see down here, it moved it down to the bottom of my global views. And then you can come down here to edit views, and you can move it to local or move it back to global. You can move it up in each view, that kind of thing. But I'm actually just going to delete it because I don't need it. I just wanted to show you guys how you do that. And then the same thing with filters here. Let's do, and PT last value is at least 5. Don't know why that's the only one. Those are the only ones that are showing above 5, but they are. You can hit save filter, D there, and Now it's down there. There's only the local filter, or only local, well, one type of filter. So go to edit filters. Let's go back to fielding and go back to edit filters, delete. Otherwise, when I tried to go back to a filter, it was gonna try and tell me to save it again. You can save a ton of different views. So go to sell here. I've got a view that I call sell, sell, sell. And it has all the things I want to see before I sell a card. So we're going to go ahead, go to this report button and write report to disk. Make sure before you do that you have the correct export and the correct filter if you are filtering. So write report to disk. Here we go. So this is what you will get when you export it. It will or write report to disk. It will open up a web page here in your browser. You can see here it's on my D drive, basically the save file for this tournament. So what I do is I click down here, and I find it fastest anymore just to do Control A, Control C. So select all and copy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bottom of this field here. I'm going to right click on this this first row that needs data still, so where the Sunday whatever information says there, and match destination formatting. You don't have to do that. You can just Control V it. The formatting doesn't make a ton of difference. It just bugs me. So that is so let's put these back here. And then what I do for the if it's the first export for a new sheet, so if I've just started a new export, I just delete the player list button, or the player list row. But since this is not the first export I've done for this sheet, I go ahead and get rid of both the player list and the header row there. If you don't, that is going to cause problems later on when you try to group everything up. So as you can see, I've got all the headers up here, so I just deleted that player list. But for everything else, since the headers stay the same the rest of the way across, I don't need the headers, so I just delete them. And then you'll notice me kind of moving around the Excel sheet pretty fast. It's just a general tip for Excel. If you need to get to the top of a sheet or the bottom of a sheet or all the way to one side, you can hold Control and then hit the button for what you need. So we go Control up, that takes me to row 1. Control down, that takes me to the last row that has text in it. So if we go here, it actually doesn't take me down to 10106 because there's nothing in this cell. It takes you down to the last cell that has text in it in that either row or column. Let's go ahead and close this, and then we go back here. Now we're gonna go to pitching export. And we're going to do the exact same thing. View pitching export, filter pitching export, write report to disk. Here it opens up. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when you just Control V. It gets a lot wider, and it tries to wrap the text here and all of that. It takes up a lot more space. You get a name like, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce the beer baron's first name there. And it just starts taking up a ton of space. You have to scroll forever. That is why I tend to prefer doing this to match destination formatting. Obviously, that does take a little bit more time than just doing Control V, but that is a personal preference. You can just do Control V if you don't really get annoyed by that. It's faster, definitely, but having it formatted that way annoys me and makes it harder for me to focus on what I'm doing. So now let's talk about fielding. Fielding is different because I think at the beginning of the 23 cycle, maybe it was 24, but I think it was 23, we were told of a way to get fielding statistics specific to a position. So before, we would just export all players and basically go off of players who played one position or primarily one position. I think it was Nicolino gave us some information we didn't have, which is if you go to the position here and you sort by catcher or any position here, So only the number positions. So pitchers through right field, not all infielders or all outfielders. That'll group up all of that. It will only show those statistics for them playing at that position. And that is huge when you are trying to determine, especially for things like shortstop and second base or shortstop and third base, where things can be much different between those positions, center field and a corner outfield spot as well. Unfortunately, it made exporting these stats a little bit longer because now we have to do 8 exports for fielding instead of just the 1, but it is exponentially more accurate this way. So while it does take a little bit longer, it is much more accurate. And again, that's why I put the position number here. That way, I dump this all in a fielding tab, and then when I get to filtering things out, I can filter on that position rather than having to have a tab for catcher, a tab for first base, or a sheet for catcher, first base, all that. You can do it that way. You don't have to do it that way, and that takes a little bit longer to set up because you're switching between sheets all the time. For me, this is the easiest way to do it. You just filter it out on the position. And again, we go across, down. Delete these. And we go to second base. This is number 3. I don't tend to close the browser between each, or close the tab between each export. It just takes a while. If I'm not using my browser for whatever reason, like I'm listening to music or something like that, not watching a stream, I tend to only have, I tend to not have the browser open at all. And what I can do is once I'm done with exporting everything, rather than having to close it tab by tab, I just close the entire browser. Now we got left field, and you can see the numbers of players is adjusting between each position. So you have 145 played in left field, but if we go to center field here, we have 123 players there. That a lot of times that has to do with things like platoons. People are more likely to platoon a corner outfield spot than center field, where defense is more important, and people will just hit the wrong button there. People will just punt on the offense completely, or at least against one side, to make sure that they can get the best defense they can in center field. We paste that one in there. Go back here, and yeah, it's 130, so it's a little higher. In Iron, I think you run out of platoons at some point, so platooning right isn't as feasible, but I can't remember what my roster is looking like right now. At the end here, I just close out. That closes all those tabs very quickly. Oh, the other thing you want to do is you want to delete this date thing here at the bottom before you try to do anything with it. Once you're done, you need to delete that, or else it's most Excel or Sheets or other things are going to throw an error when they see that. Another question I get, and I find myself asking this as well a lot of times, is how do you know if you have enough samples? So here you can see I have 12,000 fielding exports, but obviously that's all the positions combined. We've got about 8,800 pitchers and a little over 10,000 batters. And that tracks pretty well across formats. You're going to have the most fielders because especially utility players play multiple positions. You're going to have next most you're going to have is batters. And you have the fewest pitchers because especially in like a best of 3 format or a best of 5 format, not every pitcher pitches. So if you get swept in the first round of this tournament, your second 2 starters or your last 2 starters aren't going to start, and you're probably not going to use your entire bullpen. But how do you know you have enough? That's really hard. I tend to want as many plate appearances as I can, but I usually tend to filter either on, if I have a lower number, I tend to try to filter around 550 because that's a full season, or I'll filter on 1,000 or more if I have a very large data set like this. For pitchers, it's kind of the same thing. If I have a smaller data set, about 150 innings, and that's low, but that's when I'm looking at a much smaller data set. If I have a larger data set like this, I'm probably going to look at something like 1,000 batters faced. Where that really comes into issue is with relievers, because they don't face as many batters, or not the elite relievers, sometimes those back-end relievers that aren't quite the top, but they still work in some pens. They might not show up in your data, but your elite relievers are. For fielders, I always want 1,000 innings, and that's where it gets difficult. Getting enough fielder data is very difficult. I usually want at least 10 fielders at every position that have at least 1,000 innings played. Or that's about where I think you got a really good sense of the noise is out of the data, and you really know what you're looking at. It's really solid. So what I have set up here, I'm not gonna show it here, how to set it up, because it is a little silly and it's a little complicated to get set up. But I have this sheet set up here. It's a pivot table that just sums up the innings played by position and player here. And then there's just a count if statement that looks at the column by position and tells me how many players of that position have at least 1,000 innings. The reason there's a -1 is because there's a total number at the bottom, so I just -1 to remove that. I think you can just turn that off, but and I set this range to be extremely long. There's no way that it goes down to be 3260, but if I don't know how long I'm gonna make at a range, but I know it's gonna be quite a ways, I usually just add a 0 or add 2 zeros to it if it doesn't matter if it's looking at empty rows, just so I don't have to worry about going back and adjusting it again, adjusting the range multiple times. I want to refresh this because I got quite a bit of new data in there, and refresh, and looks like we have third base is the one we have the fewest of at 7, and then we have under 9 first basemen. Not as worried about first base. Obviously, first base defense, kind of take it or leave it. I'm good with this number, even with third base. I'll just take the inaccuracies on third base, because the issue is at this point, I've exported every second cup of iron I have, and the other issue with third base is everyone kind of plays the same players. If everyone plays the same players, it takes forever to get this number up. So getting this number to 10 is going to take a ton more exports. 700, that gets us to 8. 50, nope, that does not, but 750 innings probably will, which we will get into more later. That the summing up does not exactly work here. It's a rough guide because partial innings are not counted correctly. We will get into that in part 2, how to correct for that, but I don't want to do that for just a quick glance at how many. So that is it for this first episode on how to build an out-of-the-park tournament model. The next episode we're going to go through, we're going to clean and prepare the data. So this is the export part. This is the part that takes the most time, exporting from all your tournaments usually, especially if you're having to export from a lot of quicks, like I have. So after this, we get to do things like cleaning the data and getting ready to do the calculations and setting the assumptions for the environment. This is going out probably either Sunday night or maybe the 18th of December. And then the next part is going to take a little bit more work, so it probably won't be for a few days. but it should be here before Christmas. That might be the last one I get up before Christmas, though, just because I've got other things going on. Don't forget, tune into my stream, twitch.tv/IRACTHS. I do Perfect Team streams, I do base game streams as well, where we talk about models, or we talk about just playing the game, favorite players, favorite cards. We just talk about baseball too. It's a really fun time. Just come in, hang out, see my cats. They're not making themselves known in this video, but they are there on stream. Yeah. Also, click subscribe on this channel as well for more of this information coming very soon. So, I don't know how many episodes this is gonna be. I'm thinking 5 to 7, but it might be more. Because I'm going to do separate ones for batting and pitching and fielding, and if anything, fielding is going to take a long time to do. Nothing else to wrap up here, so I will see you all next time.